Hello, guys. So oh, there's Alan.
Give me a second. Freaking children. Like, I was all ready to do everything, and then I got deluged by freaking children about, like, what do I need to do for this and this and this? We're leaving on Monday, and anyway, I got embroiled.
It's
Give me a second. Let me throw
totally
this away.
fine.
I'll be right back.
Totally fine. How is everybody tonight? What are you guys reading right now? What am I reading right now? I am currently reading Drowned Kingdom by P.L. Stewart. I just started that. And then I'm also reading Blood of Crows by Alex C. Pierce, which is kind of a heist. You know what, Anita? I seriously thought about wearing the boa and everything, but the truth is it gets really hot in this room when I am filming and live streaming. So usually about halfway through the live stream, I just start to get incredibly uncomfortable with how warm it is in here. But I decided to be posh by bringing a glass of wine with me to this chat. So I am being partially posh. And the hat that I wore in the thumbnail would be impossible for me to put headphones over without looking. I mean, I could, but it would look really, it would be weird. Katie is reading a medical physics paper and is not happy about it. I'm not going to lie, Katie, that sounds hellish. Hey, Shad. Hey, Stuart. Hi, Anitha. Hey, Penny.
What was the plan? You went live literally without me. Like,
yeah, I was going to entertain the masses while I was waiting for you.
Oh, okay.
That's fine. I've done that before.
I don't know, Anita.
Hi, Sarah. Hey, I'm actually pretty impressed because I had this whole plan that I was going to like just chat with everybody for a few minutes while you were finishing dinner or whatever, and get on when you did.
Literally,
totally
the only reason I saw it is because freaking Anita, I think, did she
in the Discord
or something? No, she didn't ping me, but like I had the Discord open because I'm, dealing with freaking children, and I saw that Anita had posted, and I was like, she's like, I don't know. And then I was like, okay, well, what time is it? And then I looked, and it was literally 8:00 on the dot. I'm like, mother.
Well, thank you for. Hopefully, this will be a nice break from all of the children asking you all of the things.
Hold on, let me answer this. I'm going to kill them. I hate them already. We haven't even left.
Thank you, Derek. I was quite proud of this icon. I'm not going to lie, or the thumbnail. Good point, Sarah. The posh is something you carry inside you always. Yeah. Hey, I am drinking wine, Anitha. That is posh. And I'm wearing my pajama pants. So, also posh. Friday night deadlines are the literal worst. True story. Hey, Chris. Chris, your BookTube channel goes live in April. Do you have like an official date in April for that yet? Hi, Casey. Hey, guys. Hello. I do. It is very impressive. It's really the height of my BookTube career so far.
No, it's that one burned down. I'm the great value brand.
This is the second part 2.
Yeah, exactly. I won the contract bid to rebuild it.
That's pretty awesome.
I mean, no, it's like we've only got like books nobody reads. No one comes to check them out, and
it's funny because one of the reasons that I chose that as the kind of slogan for the chat this evening is because you always say that you like books that nobody else likes, but there's a whole bunch of people around you that also like the books that you like. Yes. So I always find that very funny. It's like nobody else likes these books. Meanwhile, your entire like horde of Allen fans.
What I mean by that is that a review of The Hammer by KJ Parker doesn't get like 100,000 views. That's what I mean. What I mean is that the population at large, like
Yeah.
I like people who have known me long enough or who have known me enough, I just use shorthand. Like
Mhm.
I could say the general populace at large does not like the books that does not normally read the books that I read. They're not
Yeah.
popular in the mainstream. However, I have a bunch of really close friends in my Discord and in the community who have discovered it like along with me and like it as
Yeah.
well. That's so much longer than saying nobody reads the books I read. Like that's so much
Yeah.
easier. That's actually one of the things that my wife and I, one of our biggest communication issues when we got married, because you know I'm neurodivergent and she's not. So my brain just like I just don't think of things the same way she does.
Mm.
So her and her family are extremely specific with everything they say. Like they do not say a word that they do not mean. I use shorthand. And so she's like, well, I don't know why you would say that. I'm like, that is not what I'm saying. I am saying this, but what it means is all of these words, but I was trying to conserve. I was trying to be like language.
I was trying to have a shorter conversation.
Yeah, except that it never is because I end up having to explain why it's shorthand, which I could have just done the full explanation to start with.
Yeah. Hey, Andrew. I know Andrew's under the weather, everybody, so everybody wish him well.
Oh, I'm sorry you're sick.
Derry's in the chat. Hi, Derry. Hey, Joanna.
Yeah, Joanna's here.
Yeah.
Dang, Nuclear Katie's here. See, these are all good people. Except Joanna, who just goes on other people's streams and it's like, oh my gosh, I need to read that. No, read the Long Price Bleeding Quartet. You're one of the only people that has the omnibus. Like it's just wasting space on your shelf, Joanna. I know you have it too.
Oh, it's up there, yeah.
I know, but I think you'll read it before Joanna does.
I'm gonna read it this year. It's one of my major series goals this year.
Joanna's too busy freaking reading more of R. Scott Bakker after having a big conversation about Shogun, about how like there's too much like assault in books and stuff. Maybe that wasn't that conversation. That was the one with Bookborn. It was a conversation with
that was the one with Bookborn, which was a very good conversation, by the way. I enjoyed that. Yeah, that was a really good one.
Joanna.
Thank you, Chiago, but I have my doubts.
I'm just kidding. I love Joanna.
Hey, Arliss.
Actually, like, so if y'all see me like dump on somebody like repeatedly, like in a video or in multiple videos, I actually like those people. If you oh my gosh, send it all in one text.
It's like that with group texts. With my husband's family has a group text, and I'm like, please do not add me to group texts, please. Like I understand, but a group email is better than group texts.
On the last Chatting with Nuts that I was in, I talked about this for like 15 minutes because I hate those. My wife's family, the same thing. The problem is they all have bloody iPhones. So every flipping time someone needs to react to it, it sends me a new text. And it would be fine if I had like an innocuous text noise. I don't. Like, and like, we'll change the text noise. No, I like my I like my persona text noise. Stop adding me to group chats or stop reacting to everything. Like, you don't need to tell someone that you liked what someone said. Just let them text. I hate them. I literally turn them all on silent. I do not get notifications for them.
I try to avoid those as much as possible. And usually I'll remove myself as soon as the conversation's done. I will remove myself from the group text because it's like, I don't want this to start another conversation.
Remove yourself from group texts on Android. You can't. Like you physically cannot remove yourself.
I'm sorry.
I have to mute them. Chiago, holy wars are my love language. But like if we're literally talking about love languages, my love language is words of affirmation.
Same.
I don't think it's surprising to anybody.
I'm shocked.
I know, right?
Hey, Matt. Hi, Mark. Sarah. Joanna is the good people in the chat, Sarah. We know how it is.
No.
It's true. I felt like I had a rite of passage when I had the first holy war declared against me. Yeah, that was a moment.
We're having a logistics issue, so all the holy wars are on hold at present.
That's fair.
We're having supply chain issues. Stupid COVID.
We are not alone in our hate of group texts, which does not surprise me.
Thank goodness. I hate them.
Evie.
No. So seriously, if we're gonna like real talk it, part of it is because I do not know how to relate to people. Like I don't know how to have a regular conversation with people a lot of times because I mean again, it's being on the spectrum. I don't know how to have. I don't know. It's just really hard to relate to people on like a normal, like, I don't know, vulnerable scale, like, or on a completely insignificant scale. And I find great amusement when there is a faux antagonistic like relationship with people, like when people play along, like Bookborn, like she doesn't like she didn't even bat an eye. Literally everything I send to her in Instagram is me screaming at her. Like she posted that thing about she had some, I don't know, on their freaking elitist War Room Council 5-part book club series.
I was like, Bookborn has come up. Wait, I'm waiting for the. Yep, there it is.
We have 3 discussions on Shogun. That's like 3 times the length of that book. Whatever. Anyway, someone in she posted the comments of someone like trashing it, basically saying what I just did, but like meanly. And I responded like just instantly. It was like, oh, that's my other account. I just forgot to log back into my main one before sending that before posting that comment on your video. And she just not even batting an eye. She's like, well, there's people who defended me, so you're getting what you deserve. I'm like, why are these people being so hostile to me? And we just go back and forth, me pretending like I left that comment. And I don't know how to talk to people otherwise. Like, I don't know how to be like, hey, how's your, say hi to your mother for me. You know, like, how's the wife and kids? Like,
the chit chat.
I don't know how to do that. Like, so it's just easier for me to.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I really like, because I have a hard time with just chit chat. Like, throw me at a cocktail party or something, and I'm a fish out of water. What I love so much about like author interviews with people that I've never met before is that we have an immediate common ground. Like, we can talk about a book, we can start there. And so it's already like moving past a lot of that really awkward. So, which I hate.
Yeah. Like
Hi, Jen.
Derry, I'm excited to see you. I apologize that I did not. Well, part of it, Derry, is because I'm not like currently like angry at you for anything. So it's just good to see you. But I see Joanna and I'm angry at her. So
you need to provoke him, Derry, with something.
No, don't. I don't. And the thing is, you know, okay, so I say I like those antagonistic relationships, and I do, but every now and then it just gets tiring. Like, I get tired of myself. Like, and I get tired of like, why is everything so hostile all the time? And then I'm like, oh wait, it's my fault. Like I started it. I don't know. What normal talk accent? Did I do a different talk? Oh yeah. That's my Marky Mark impression. Say hi to your mother for me. Yeah, I don't even know what that one. I don't even remember. I need to write these down. I don't even remember what the holy. What is this live stream about? It
is a book friends chat, Alan, where we talk about books.
Why do I not be on imposter syndrome? I have it worse than any of those people you have on. Oh, it's because I haven't written anything. Dadgummit, elitist.
I get to join the elitist club now. Oh man, I'm only 2,000 subscribers, and I'm
anybody that leaves me out of anything is automatically an elitist. It's automatic.
Well, you realize that now I have to continue to leave you out of imposter syndrome forever so that I can stay in the elitist club.
Like, I have imposter syndrome like nobody's business, and I hate it the most. And I hate when people claim they have it and they just are self-conscious. Those aren't the same thing. They're not the same thing. Everyone is self-conscious. Like, I get it. Except douchebags. And a lot of douchebags are self-conscious too. Especially when they're concerned about people realizing they're douchebags and everything coming crashing to the ground. It's really hard to keep up what are we doing? Tori, I've literally just like, I showed up and I just started knocking over your furniture. So
you know what? I would not have invited you if I expected anything else. I was
I appreciate
prepared.
that you put the Coliseum up in the background though. I like
Yeah,
that.
right. I thought that was a nice touch.
Heck yeah.
Right. I'm in the elite club now, Derek. I need to start, dressing up for these live streams a little bit more.
Evie, Anitha was on the one of the most recent live streams I did.
Thiago is starting his own imposter syndrome show, and he wants you to be on it.
Cool. What are you going to call it?
He's going to call it imposter syndrome.
He's going to call it imposter syndrome.
Right. So, Alan, what are you reading right now? Are you reading right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading a stupid KJ Parker short story that I just want it to be over. Like,
really?
I do not enjoy KJ Parker's short stories, and it is not. I love it, and the only reason I read them, because if I didn't enjoy them, I wouldn't. But I really like the way he writes. Like, I like his writing style, and I like parts of it. But when I'm done, I am rarely glad that I read it. Like, I'm rarely like, you know what, that was really good. Instead, I just literally forget all of them. Like, I do not know. Now, there are like 2 or 3 that I've read that I've given like 5 stars because they're really good. Like, I remember them. But most of them I forget, like almost the day after. I'm like, I don't even know what this is about. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I like his novellas, but even his novellas I tend to get a lot of 4-star novellas. It's his novels that I've really enjoyed. 4 out of the 5 standalones I've given 5 stars.
I know The Folding Knife is one of his novels, but what are the other ones?
So Folding Knife, The Hammer, The Company, Savages, all of which I gave 4 stars, and then Sharps, which I didn't like, and I don't.
Okay.
It's actually the most recent of his standalone novels, and I don't know why I didn't like it, but it was the second one I read, and I did not enjoy it that much. It's like a 3-star read for me. The end was really good, but I didn't enjoy him. Anyway, I'm finishing up the stupid thing because I finished Dictator last night, and I always read a short story in between my next pickup, and so then I'll be finishing our Shogun stuff.
Nice.
I'll be finishing Shogun before I read anything else. What are you reading?
I am reading Drowned Kingdom by P.L. Stewart, which is a fantasy based kind of on the Lost City of Atlantis. Huh?
Didn't I talk to you yesterday?
Yes.
Oh,
no,
yes.
2 days. Yeah, last night with Shogun.
It was yesterday. Yeah.
Yep. I told you, remember I sent you a message earlier this week and I said, you're going to be really sick in my face by the end of the week.
No, I just, it's told by an idiot, Evie. That's the story I'm reading. And I'm not hating it. I'm just like,
it's just not.
I mean, I just don't want to read his short stories. But I've got 2 more left in this freaking collection, and then I can move on.
Have you read any Gene Wolfe, Alan?
Man, no. It was a patron pick, but like I failed miserably on patron picks because I just can't do it. I'm gonna read that eventually. Like, it's out in a pile. Like, if it's not on the shelf, it's in a pile, like, so I can look at it.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't read it. I'm hoping that, like, when I hit the summer, I can have some freedom in what I'm reading. Currently, I'm just trying to like wrap crap up and be accountable to these buddy reads and stuff, which my read-alongs like Shogun and freaking Cicero have gone really well, which makes me happy.
Yes. Shogun has been a really fun read-along.
And then I see that are you going to join us with Taipan? Because I saw that in your thumbnail.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I'd like to.
Because Kyle's going to read Taipan with us also. And so me, you...
Depends on when you start.
April. Yeah, me, you, Josh, and Kyle can do a Taipan live show. And it's only half of it. It's only half the book.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's a lot shorter than...
No. So we're only going to read half in April and then half in May.
How long is it total? My problem is I'm doing another read.
It's like 700 other pages.
In April. That's all SFF. So I got to be careful how much I commit to that isn't SFF.
I gotcha. It's Taipan I've only read once. I've read Shogun.
Okay. Because didn't you say that you actually liked Taipan better?
I think as I've gotten older, yes, I like Taipan because I don't know why I am obsessed with trading houses and like the East India Trading Company and things like that. Like, I really just like the idea of naval, like mobile, like just merchants, like merchant princes, basically. Even though their primary, I mean, one of the primary things they're shipping in friggin' Taipan is opium, because this takes place around the times of the Opium Wars. It's like right after the first Opium War, because they have Hong Kong, and it's just like watching these two guys try to get the best of each other. Like, I just remember it being really, really good, because I've read Shogun twice, but I only read this one once. But I just remember it. I'm hoping it's now. Here's what people don't like about Taipan. There is what's called Pidgin Chinese in it, which is Pidgin is it's like a combination of Chinese and bad English. So, people don't like that, because like, oh man, that like is super awkward. I mean, yes, but I mean, that is what they spoke in. That is what the people they interacted with the Brits spoke in Hong Kong is and he has a Chinese wife, and so it's whenever they try to speak English, they don't speak English very well. But it's the same. It's mostly the same people that get bent out of shape when they read Shogun, and it's like, this is not culturally sensitive, and it's like, well, it's freaking 1600 Japan. Like, it's not. It doesn't have the modern sensibilities. It takes place 500 years ago, or 400 years ago, or whatever. So, but I love Taipan. Just the struggle of these merchant. And they're really pirates. Really, really, they're pirates. Like, they're pirates with like a veneer of respectability, and that's what I really like. So,
they're posh pirates.
Basically, basically. But they're brutal. Like, the stuff they will do. It's just like, it just reminds me of Toranaga. They have no. There's nothing they won't do to stay ahead, because that's how that's how the trading house keeps going. You gotta be the one on top. So
well, I know you've said quite a few times on your channel and live streams that, like, books that have, and even in fantasy too, the books that have a lot of really intricate political maneuvering and that kind of stuff seems to be really where your like favorite wheelhouse is.
I just love it. I like the exploration of what people will do to be on top, and like what kind of principles they'll sacrifice, because I'd prefer them not sacrifice any of them, but I mean, that doesn't always make for the most interesting story, especially if there's one person who will and one person who won't. Well, I mean, the one who will sacrifice all his principles, I mean, obviously going to beat this other guy, so it's I just like seeing how far. I always like it when they dip their toe into, like, it's too far, but they come out on the side of like, okay, I didn't completely lose my soul. That's what I prefer. But yeah, I like power struggles. I don't know why. I don't know. I think it's because, like, I literally live in a meme of revolution. Like, it's like I can't exist if I am not fighting against some kind of tyrannical system, and so that's why I declare
justice brains.
That's why I declare war on everybody all the time.
Well, and it's also a, like, it makes sense too that it's something you enjoy. I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but if it's something you really enjoy, it's almost like you're bringing that into your circle of friends, that same kind of like fun political maneuvering, and it's just kind of your version of a like middle grade playground.
Absolutely. Kyle, I did not forget that you were reading Taipan with us this time. So how about that one? You missed it.
Always the Holy Wars, Kyle.
Yeah, they're on hold against supply chain. Yeah, desperation arc. I like it. Especially when it's handled with nuance, as opposed to like, oh, this guy's gonna sacrifice everything, versus this guy's never gonna compromise. The nuance thing is like, yes, that's literally, like, I literally live in this space where I believe that people should rise up and overthrow the system, but in no way trust the people to govern themselves. So
that's fair.
I want to lead the revolution to overthrow the empire and then put me in charge, because I know that I'm not corrupt. Like, I know that I'm not corrupt. So I can do it. I can do the job. I cannot trust that, the people, because the people are corrupt. They don't know. The only reason they're not corrupt right now is because they don't have any power. As soon as I give it to them, they'll be corrupt.
Yeah.
No.
Power is a very fast track to
yes,
corruption.
I'm going to be a tyrant, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a nice tyrant. So
benevolent dictator.
Yes, benevolent dictator, and I will crush any dissent.
Hey guys. Well, Genghis Khan is on board.
Yeah, Genghis Khan knows. Genghis Khan knows.
So, Alan, I did, before we got on, I did go through your Goodreads. And I don't know if you saw what I did when Mike was on, but no. I did a save one, drop one game with him.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Let's do it.
You want to? I put a whole, and there's series and one-off books in here. So, and I just went through and grabbed a whole bunch of random stuff. So you have to, I'll show you two, and you have to pick one to save and one to drop forever.
Okay. All these people, you all are good citizens. You will all reap the benefits of the people who I, remove and take their property. I'll distribute it to you. All right, let's go. Let's do it.
All right. The first one, folding knife.
Oh man, save it. So go ahead.
Stoner.
Guess. Stoner's gone. I like Bassett too much.
Stoner is gone. You heard it here first.
I love Stoner, but I liked all of Folding Knife. I loved the back half of Stoner.
Because I've heard that Stoner is kind of like the payoff is really the magic of that book.
Yeah,
is that true?
Stoner's a schmuck, and he's just a the problem is that I don't care about turn of the century Missouri. Like I don't care about a farmer become a crappy English teacher. I do care about an English professor standing up for academic integrity. That I care about very much. But him and his dumb wife not being able to get along, they just make me mad. Like they just make me mad that they make me mad. But I do like Stoner, and John Williams, as you saw in Augustus, is just an
brilliant. Oh my gosh, I would love. I'm hoping to film my review for Augustus tomorrow, and I have had to take a week and a half to even get to a point where I feel like I could partially articulate how I feel about it.
And when
there's so much
on my channel, everyone was drawn to a different part of it.
Right.
It's just it's so good, and
so good.
And what Augustus has to do with his daughter, and the fact that he doesn't follow his own freaking morality. But again, and this is one of the key takeaways I had is the fact that we should aspire to something even if we can't hit it. Just because we can't hit it, people are like, well, I'll never be perfect, so I'm not even gonna try. No.
Right.
What if you tried to be decent?
Right.
And we just celebrate the journey instead of because this happens. I deal with this I struggle with some things, and I know that things are a weakness for me, and it is hard when you are raked over the coals during the process of improvement, where only and it's like your successes are invisible.
Yes.
So let's say I'm working on something. I don't want to do this thing anymore. I don't want to lose my cool when a surprise happens. No one notices when there's a surprise and I don't lose my cool. They only notice when I'm loud and So the successes are invisible. It's only the failures that are visible. And that's really frustrating to me. So, but yeah, Augustus is so good. No, not Journey Before Destination. No. Why does everyone keep trying to sell me on that? Everyone keeps trying to catch me on that. And when I said the word journey, I knew someone was going to do it. I don't know why it had to be Kyle, but I knew someone was going to do it. Because people are always trying to catch me out on that as if that proves that I think journey is over destination. It's not.
What if both are important?
No, they're not. No. Except that I read that part in Way of Kings where they said that the first time. And to me, it just sounded like Sanderson was saying, it sounded like it was just this has to come before this, not this is better than this. It seemed to me like socks before shoes.
Right.
Breakfast before lunch, journey before destination. Yeah, obviously, obviously. That's like people who think the allegory of the cave by Plato is somehow profound. Oh, you mean once you've been exposed to something, you can never not be exposed to that thing? Gasp!
It's that's a pretty profound.
I have to tell my students, I'm like, y'all, you guys who are interested in this kind of stuff, when you get to college, you're gonna find some preppy dude wearing a pastel colored polo who's gonna come up to you and try to impress you with Allegory of the Cave by Plato, just tell them they suck and that's boring and walk away. Like, don't listen to that nonsense.
Yep. I went through one of my least favorite classes in all of college for my English major was literary theory, because I mean, there were pieces of it. There were pieces of it that were cool, but like, and that was one of the things we read at the very beginning. And
was the Allegory of the Cave?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, I get it. And I'm not saying it's bad, but like, people, especially armchair intellectuals, act like this is like, or college students, they act like it's the most profound thing they've ever heard in their life. And no, it's just like, and again, like, I get really excited about things that I think are profound. So, I mean, still, but I mean, Allegory of the Cave, everyone jumps on, and Plato sucks. So,
but the idea of profound is so different for every person. I mean, if you think about when we all read the same book and we're all getting different things out of it, and there's different moments that each of us find really,
for sure, profound
or resonating, it's going to be different.
And that's what I love with Augustus. Like, what resonated with you the most in Augustus?
You know, there were a couple. For me, in the stage of life that I'm in right now, as a mom, one of my biggest fears is what's going to happen through my children's lives. You know, that fear that I can't protect them from everything, and that I have to send them out into a world that I don't trust, and somehow be like, you're going to do great, sweetie. You know, like, that's a really, really hard fear as a parent. And so one of my favorite parts of the whole book was, and I'm not going to say her name right, it was the woman that was like his nanny when he was younger. Hirtia, yeah. The two sections that she's in or mentioned in, and everything that kind of coincides with that, just because he talks about his mother a little bit, but you could tell that like Hirtia was this actual mother figure to him, and the heartbreak that he goes through with her and all of that. I really connected with that for some reason when I was reading it.
I don't think he had much of a relationship with his mom. Like, Atia, the ultimate helicopter parent. She was like, she was like hovering because he was a sickly kid. He was always sick when he was younger. And she was always very concerned about, like, I don't want you to get killed. Don't get hurt. Don't get, like, she was just very concerned with what he was going to, you know, do as far as Caesar came. Like, don't get involved in that. Don't get killed. So, you know, so he had, I don't think he was super close with Atia.
Yeah. I think one of the other concepts that I found really interesting was when they talk about like growing out of your circle of friends, as far as getting to the end of your life, and that there is going to be someone in that circle who is the last one there, and how that like just completely changed him. And that was really, I'm cherry picking because there was so much in that book that I could talk about for ages.
That part is just so, like, how lonely he must have been, because he had 3 people he could trust in his entire life. Like Agrippa, Maecenas, and then someone came along later. Horace. Yeah. Like, he had 3 people he trusted. And then they all die, and then he doesn't just outlive them; he outlives them by a lot.
Yeah. Because I think Horace was the last one, because he was a little bit younger. I think
Agrippa dies first, because Agrippa dies in the.
I liked Agrippa.
Oh,
I like Agrippa.
There are one of my favorite things, and Jake and I talk about this, and a little bit with Kyle also, is thinking what the world would have been like if Agrippa had not died. Because Agrippa won all of Octavius's battles. Agrippa was going to be a successor. Agrippa was even keeled. He was not greedy. He did not need the glory. Like, if the freaking empire would have been much, much, much more stable had Agrippa succeeded him, and not freaking Tiberius, who was literally Augustus's last choice. So
that whole, I think that too was just a great example of stories where everything can be set up to be fixed. And in one generation, you can lose it all again. It can be gone, which is just, you know, it's morbid, but it's also a good reminder to like not put as much stock in like all of the stuff that we have and the materialism of it, I think.
Yeah, for sure. It's just good. And John Williams just,
it's so good.
Such a good writer.
Yeah. And I'm really grateful, actually. I'm going to say this in my review too. I'm really grateful that one of the things I love about BookTube and getting to be closer friends with everybody is like I never, or not for a very long time, but probably would never have gotten to a book like that on my own.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I like history. I'm in the mood for some kind of historical fiction. And I know like Alan, Anitha, et cetera, have all like been Tori, you need to read this. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
So that's an immediate 5-star for me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm excited.
It's
I'm
so
glad
good.
you liked it too.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that I try, that I love reading stuff like this too, because I think sometimes I do tend to like really fast paced, really action heavy fantasy novels. That's really my sweet spot. You know, the Motley Crews and all that kind of stuff. But I do love other, just because you have a sweet spot doesn't mean, I think people tend to pigeonhole readers a little. Oh, this is the kind of book that you'll like. And I think sometimes it's okay to push ourselves out of our comfort zone a little bit, because I mean, Augustus is nothing like Red Rising, but I loved 5-starred both of them, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I forgot you're a Red Rising. Like, yeah, I mean, that's true, Jen. That is true. That might be I mean.
And this, I like Nat's comment about that too. That's also very true.
That's true. But I speak in broad generalizations. And that's how I roll. There are always exceptions to what I'm saying. Yeah, no, I tend to prefer books where like a lot of cool stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yet some of my favorites are Augustus,
Slow burns,
Long Price Quartet. Like these books that are like much slower, like character studies.
I mean, I would argue though that like in Augustus, that there's a lot that happens in that book. It's just like the events are secondary to that deep character study, which I think is my favorite way to read books.
Yeah.
Because I mean, one of my biggest pet peeves in reading ever is when you have a moment where the character, you can tell there was a moment where the author was like, okay, I need the plot to do this. Therefore, character is going to do this thing that character would not actually do just because plot. That's one of my absolute biggest pet peeves ever in reading.
Yeah, and it usually stands out. It's like, why would they do this?
Wait a second.
I don't. Okay, so have you read through book 3 of Malazan?
Yes, I've read everything up to Midnight Tides.
All right, well, we'll have to talk. We're there doing spoilers for that, but there is something that happens in Memories of Ice that doesn't make any sense. It happened because the plot needed to happen, and every single Malice stan is going to come out and be like, they all give me some reason, and the reason they give me is what AP said, and they're just parroting back AP's. Like, I've heard what AP said. It's not a good enough reason. Like it's not a good reason. No one has given me any kind of satisfactory reason on why this character does this.
I'm really curious.
And because it doesn't make any sense. And people's reasons don't make any sense. Like, the reasoning relies way too much on, I mean, I guess, like, and not anyway. And even if they said that was true, Joanna did agree with me. Joanna is the only one who agrees with me. Yes, that's where Joanna.
I'm really curious. Once we jump off live, I'm going to make you tell me what it is, because I'm very curious.
It's just like, even if any of the reasons people give me are right, it was not in any way said. Like, none of that. Every reason they're giving me is not in the text. It's not in the text. They're just because freaking AP or Stephen Harrison told them that was why. Like, that's not in the text. I say, where in the text does it say that? What happens that supports that what you're saying? Like, no, I don't like it. But I love that book. I love that book. And then people get all pissed because, like, I'm criticizing something. Yeah, I still like that book. Like, I still really like Memories of Ice.
That's the thing. I've never been able to understand. This is the part of fandoms that I don't get, right? All of my favorite books, I recognize, are there things in them that could be changed, fixed, improved on? Totally. Like, if somebody says, I really didn't like, I don't know, Lies of Locke Lamora because of X reason, I'm like, okay. Like, and I may even see why they feel that way. That doesn't mean, like, it doesn't change anything for me. And that's something that I really struggle to understand about fandoms in general, is the idea that like we can't A, criticize books that we love, and B, other people can't criticize books that we love at all.
Well,
it's really weird.
You need to like things that people don't like. And then you're just immune to it, because then it's like, well, you know, like, I'll just go ahead and tell you this is boring before you do. Like, yeah, don't nothing happen. Like, you care about Army logistics? That's awesome. I also care about Army logistics. You won't believe what I have in store for you here. Oh, you care about the banking system of an entire country? Awesome. You should read The Folding Knife. It's amazing the way this man runs the banks. You know, but
yeah.
But you know, I and you know, Bookborn and I talked about it on Joanna's stream a little bit. It's like it's identity stuff. It's the same reason you can't criticize a politician's policies, because then you're criticizing them you're criticizing the supporter of the politician as a human being. It's identity politics, and that's the same thing with our fandoms. It's identity politics. Like if you badmouth Brandon Sanderson, all these people love Sanderson so much. So if I say that something Sanderson's doing is stupid, I've called you stupid. Like, I'm saying you're stupid for liking that. No.
Right.
And that's why.
Or even worse, you've called an author that they put on a pedestal stupid.
Yeah.
Which is, it's essentially sometimes even more of a mob mentality, I think.
Yeah. And that's why I try to like stop talking my Discord where people go like, I just don't understand how anybody can like this. I'm like, then you've never met a person that thought differently than you. Like, like I can understand why people like things that I don't like. I don't know why they do. Like, I understand the reasons that they give. I understand reasons that you could. I think they're bad reasons, but you know, yeah. And like Evie says, she hates Brandon Sanderson, so she hates everybody who likes him. Yeah. Oh my gosh! Don't even start. I'm about to rake Andrew across the coals right here. Andrew.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Andrew is the nitpickiest reader when it comes to freaking trad pub, and he will forgive going into Gaul and murdering 2/3 of its citizens if it's a trad pub, as long as Caesar was self-pubbed. Like, whatever, carte blanche to overthrow Gaul and raise 800 villages. But if a trad pub has one slightly anachronistic mention, no, it's done on the fire, dragging the author to the center of town, building a gibbet and stringing it by the neck till dead.
I will say, though, if Derry can put a truce in place with Andrew for Realm of the Elderlings, like,
oh yeah, he hates
be like Derry.
He hates Rainwild. That's right. I'm gonna go. I made a cup of coffee when I first
go get it. Yeah, for sure. And then we can do one more. See, I told you save one, drop one is a good idea. Okay, I'm gonna go back and check out some of the comments here. Madison, I would love to do a buddy read with you this year. Let's talk about that. There's actually a book that I might recommend. Let's chat about it. Now, that was one of the main reasons. Like, my husband is a big reader and he loves fantasy and classics and stuff. So he and I talk a lot, and we have a few friends that read, but I really wanted to have like more and bigger conversations about the books I was reading. So that was a big push for me to get on BookTube. Yeah, see, that's the thing I think that's so cool, Derry, and it shows that people are, to me, that's really cool when it shows a wider reading. I think that you can appreciate very different things. I'm not going to comment on either of these books because I have not read either of these books.
You don't have to. Are the Vampire.
You know, it's funny because if I had to name a book that is that personally controversial as far as people telling me that I must read it and try it versus people telling me I will absolutely hate it and to stay far away from it, I'm desperately curious. I will probably read it at some point.
First chapter on the preview on Amazon, it will tell you everything you need to know. And you, like I, will walk away and wonder why anyone has read it.
Yeah, I agree, Derry.
Yeah, it is.
It's awesome.
I'm never dramatic.
Alan dramatic?
I am always.
No.
deadly serious.
Yeah, Andrew just he comes on live streams to push buttons. We know this. Okay, we're gonna do another one. See, this is why I love this game, because it like we can talk about the books in this jar for 3 hours if we wanted to.
Oh, is that why we're talking about Holy Knife?
Yeah, because that was one of the options. Yeah.
About that. And the other one was Stoner.
Yep.
Stoner's so good though, but it's not Holy Knife.
Yeah. I mean, it is possible, Derry. We will find out, I suppose.
There's no way.
Okay, this is a very interesting combo. Ogres.
Ogres is good, but I'm gonna hold out for the next one.
Black Company.
Black Company, the book or the series?
The book.
Okay, the first book. Ogres was excellent, but like Black Company is nostalgia for me. I love I've read Black Company like the whole series like 4 times. Croker has a very special place in my heart among fantasy protagonists.
Because how many books are in that series total?
10. And okay. My friends and I, while we were waiting on the 10th book, we read the series like twice, 3 times, because the 10th book was published a pretty good ways after book 9.
Mm-hmm.
So we read books 1 through 9 at least twice. And then I think we read Soldiers Live. And then I think I read the whole series again. I've read it a lot.
So is the first book, because I'm planning on trying to do a buddy read. We originally were going to do a buddy read, you and I, or a discussion, you and I and Matt on books about Black Company. We should. Yeah. It's going to at some point when we get back to that, we're going to definitely do a discussion, because is the first story kind of self-contained?
Yeah. So The Black Company, the first book is really controversial. When I first read it, again, I was in high school, and so I didn't even know what a legate was at the time. Now, I mean, I can't teach Julius Caesar and not know what a legate is. It's like an envoy, like an ambassador, and I didn't know that. So I'm like, the first word of the book, chapter 1 is called legate. I'm like, I don't know except I said legate. I don't know what a legate is. And the first chapter is it's just very sparse. So it is very hard to get your bearings on what's going on.
It's not a big book, though.
No, but it is more difficult to comprehend.
Sure.
Especially the first chapter. After the first chapter, I think it's okay. The first chapter is really hard to understand what is happening if you have never read it. And I think people hate it. And I understand why. I had no idea what was happening in the first chapter the first time I read it. I just powered through and finished it. And then when I went back, I'm like, okay, so now I understand. I know what's going on in this freaking.
Well, it's I'm really looking forward to doing my Malazan reread for that reason, because reading Gardens of the Moon 10 years ago, I had no idea. I was brand new to epic fantasy. I had no idea what was going on. I had only read Mistborn and Karen Miller's Hammer of God trilogy before that, and I liked some of the characters well enough to keep going, and that was Deadhouse Gates was the one that caught me. And I think to me there's a difference between you don't understand now but you'll get there, rather than the books. One of the problems I have with Gene Wolfe, and he's one of my husband's favorite fantasy authors, is that I don't enjoy books that feel like one of those metal brain teaser puzzles.
Yeah.
That you can't get it apart no matter how hard you try. I'm horrible at those too.
Well, at the same time, so that is one of the, whenever I complain about something I'm reading by Brandon Sanderson, okay, it's Legate. They think I'm saying legate. It's pronounced legate, like it's a legate, but it's Le. There you go. And when I complain about Brandon Sanderson's books sometimes, people say that, oh, well, you see where he laid all these clues on reread. And I'm like, okay, but that is useless to a person on their first read.
Yes.
If they don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't like books that are written for the purpose of being understood the second time. No. You need to make it to where I can understand what is happening now. It is cool if you get more when you reread it. But so there's something in Hero of Ages that that I realized was not retconned. But
Sure.
unless you're really, really, really observant, there is no way that this thing in Hero of Ages doesn't come out of nowhere. Like, and yes, if you reread it, you see all where you see that's where it comes from. But like, okay, but it doesn't matter that it wasn't retconned if it feels like it's retconned because I didn't notice those things.
Right.
So, you know, there's hiding hints, and then there's hiding hints. So it didn't ruin my enjoyment of the book. But, but you know, like when you're jumping on someone to be like, oh, well, you see it all when you reread it. I don't care when I see it. Like if I didn't see it this time, I am basing what I'm saying on the fact that I've read it once. Why
Which should be.
Yes. Why are you then arguing with me on from the point of someone who's read it multiple times?
And it's funny too, because one of the things that I ran into when I did my Sanderson vlogs, which are still mostly my top viewed videos on my channel. And in fairness, like I've had some incredible, most 95% of the people on those vlogs that comment and I have discussions with are amazing. So I'm caveating this with that. But there were some people that were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you missed X, X, and X. And I'm like, okay, so first of all, I don't know that it was as obvious as you think it was. And second of all, one of the things that I struggle with having ADD is that I struggle with processes. So if this, then this, then this in that order, right? That executive function is harder. And so I'm not as likely to put those things together in books. So I enjoy, after I read the book, people saying, hey, did you notice this thing and this thing were connected? And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. But I probably won't catch it in the book as likely sometimes, but not very often. I was really excited. One of the reasons I loved reading Spirits of Vengeance, Rob Hayes' third book in Mortal Techniques, was because I was actually, it was obvious enough that I was picking up on the Easter eggs. And I actually put the book down at one point. I was like, Ben, I saw the Easter eggs. I was so excited about it.
Sarah, a lot of the Japanese language in Shogun is really old. It's like, so it's not what I learned on how to say that. Like arigato gozaimashita, that's fine. That's but like a lot of the other stuff that they say, like that's really old, like Japanese.
Yeah.
It's not like current Japanese language. And Derek, I'm talking about the third magic system after Feruchemy and Allenmancy. If you are not really observant, like it comes out of nowhere and it's like, oh, look, we have this third magic system. I'm like, what? I mean, okay, I guess we do. Why was there no mention of this in the first two books? And then people are like, yeah, but you missed this.
Right.
I mean, again, it's fine. It's fine. Like,
and that's the thing where, like, if that is the type of thing, like Arliss, my husband is the same way. He loves trying to tease out all of those little details and things. I don't want to be like frustrated and exhausted when I'm done with the book. I want it to be a fun escape and journey, you know.
I just
but it's okay that, like, it's okay that some people love that. That's awesome. And I love that my husband loves it. I just don't want to be yelled at.
Yeah. People need to argue from the point that I'm at. Like, when you're arguing, like when you're like talking to me from someone who's read it multiple times, I need you to go talk to me from a perspective of someone who's reading it for the first time, please.
Right.
Like, please. Like, and that's what Malazan fans drive me crazy with, this bullcrap. Like, they drive me like, Malazan fans do not realize that they are the biggest barrier to entry on that series. They drive more people away from that freaking series, like, because of just how complicated they talk about how it is. And oh, it's just about these great themes and compassion. And then people are like, well, that sounds really boring. And then I have to come behind them and be like, no, it's about an empire who's losing its provinces, or it's like conquered lands. And there's a ton of like army and military battles.
Yeah.
It's also, those themes are true. But I don't know why when people ask what it's about, people comment on the themes instead of telling people what the freaking thing's about.
I think one of the things that's hard with Malazan, maybe for some people, is because there are so many different plot lines, it's hard to talk in terms of protagonist and like POV characters because there's just so many of them. So I can see where it would be easier to fall back on, well, overall.
Yeah, and then but then people are like, oh yeah, like just go with it and don't even check the Philip and his don't check the glossary. You read that freaking glossary as many times as you need, because that's what I did. And then like, oh, but you're really not going to understand it. Like if you say I'm not going to understand a book till I read it a second time, I'm not going to read that book. I need to be able to understand it the first time I read it. I'm sorry, and not everybody's like that.
Right.
I am like that.
Right.
I do not have the time to. If I have read Malazan, like the first half of it, I've read 3 times. So I agree. It is much easier to understand the second time through. You get way more out of it the second time through.
But you can still enjoy it the first time.
I enjoyed it the first time through.
Yeah, same.
So, but people, I mean, when people say all this, and in their defense, they are excited that Malazan was like under a bushel for a long time, and it's had a resurgence on BookTube, especially in the last 3 years. So people are finally, they're happy that their favorite series of all time is finally seeing, like, people are like, you know, wanting to read it. And so it's excitement. I do realize it comes from a place of excitement.
Right.
But please understand, like, you have to like look at it from people who are not as excited about it as you are's perspective. Like,
well, and that's where I'm excited to go back and reread it, because I loved it so much the first time. And that, I feel like that should be if that's your primary reason to go back and reread a series, I think that's awesome, regardless of whether you caught stuff in the beginning or not. When it's, oh man, I really feel like I need to go back and reread that again because I didn't get it. That's, to me, read something else. Like, find something that you will like better.
I want to read Augustus again because, like, now that I know everything's, like, I just want to listen to it and take it in again. And I think I'll appreciate it even more in the second read through.
Totally.
But I completely understood what's happening. And again, like Arliss says, like, Arliss is a physicist, like so that's awesome. The problem is like, we in our excitement, we forget that not everybody's like us. You know what I mean? And Christopher, bless you. I read every character glossary and also I don't care if it's in the back of the book. I'm gonna read it. Like, I flip to see how long it is. And if I see a glossary, I'm like, oh, I don't know why you put this at the end, but I'm gonna read it.
I have to say that. So there's an indie author, and this is one of my favorite things I've ever seen in a Dramatis Personae page. He has, instead of like on the list of all the characters in his book, and it's Trials of Ashmount by John Palladino, the title of the page is Characters Who May Die. And then it's the list of all the characters. I was like, brilliant. I wish I'd have thought of that. That's awesome.
Is there a section that says characters that definitely will not die?
It's just characters who may die. That's the only thing. It's like, yeah, that's awesome. There was a comment that I wanted to go back to really quickly a little bit ago. Just found BookTube about 6 months ago. Now I'm trying to get started myself. You guys have given me someone to talk to about the books I love. That's awesome. And I hope that everybody will go check out your new channel. So
Gaux, read book.
Go read.
No, I love it. I love it.
Took me a minute. Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome. Do you know when you're going to have do you have videos out? You're going to start videos? I think BookTube is kind of like intimidating book series. I think, like, once you get past the first video, like, that's honestly the biggest hurdle. And thank you, Jen. I actually really enjoyed doing the vlogs. I'm going to do some more vlogs of other series in the near future. I do too. I may even vlog LPQ. I'm thinking about it.
Nice.
Yeah, thinking about it.
Like what everything you said you liked in books
is not that. I know, but I'm going into, that's the thing though too. I think going into series with the right expectation and not expecting them to be something. I'm not going to go into Long Price Quartet and expect it to give me a Red Rising experience. You know, I'm going into it expecting it. Okay, I know that this is probably going to be big payoff, slow burn. I'm going to have to, like, be patient with myself to try to connect everything, and you know.
It has some of the most human motivations and choices that I've ever read in a fantasy.
I'm so excited for that.
Like, I'm just like, I hate the things they choose to do, while completely being like, you know what, I'd probably do that. I'd probably do that too. I'm like, ugh, dum-dums.
Same, trying to catch up.
Yes, Katie, tell them that. Be like, look, if I can't understand this the first time I read it, I'm not reading it. Like, sorry.
Right.
To write it where I can understand it.
Same.
Well, also, I think some people, and these are again faux intellectuals. I don't like faux intellectuals. People who wield their intellect as a sword. People who will write things that are purposely obtuse in order to like. Here's the thing: if you write in an obtuse way and you read obtuse crap, you're not smarter than everybody else. Like, you're not better than everybody else because you choose to do that. And if you flaunt that and you think that you're better than people because you read freaking obtuse crap that no one else can understand, I mean, it's okay to like that stuff, but it doesn't make you better than other people. Like, I don't like I cannot deal with, like, I just can't deal with I guess it's elitism, like pretentious elitism.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And this comes from someone who likes academia, but I also don't like the fact that just like people, don't get irritated that fantasy isn't included among like literature. You know what I mean? Like that, like, why is fantasy considered less than?
Yes.
I don't think, like, I like academia and I like intellect and like intelligent concepts, but I don't like all the language that surrounds academia. Like, I don't talk like that. Like, I don't talk like Philip. Like, and that's good that there are people that do that. But I think we own, I don't know. I think if you don't talk like that, then you're somehow not part of the, because it's like that. It's like that whenever I go to freaking Latin, like take my kids to competition with the other Latin teachers. Some of them are the most freaking priggish, like, just like, like, just the most professorial, academic, like, they make jokes and I'm like, oh, that was a joke.
Yeah.
Oh, how is anybody, but they're all together going, oh. It's like, what? Like,
Yeah.
it's unfriendly and it's because I'm like, I'm not going to talk like that. Like, I'm not going to act like that. Like, they act like they don't like their students. Like, they don't spend any time with their students at these things. Meanwhile, I hate being called away to have to hang out with those people. I'm like, I'm here because I like my kids, not so I can drop them off at the pool and hang out with y'all. Like, y'all are a drag. Like, what if I just hung out with my students because I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I just don't like elitism, and it makes me mad.
And it's one of those things where, like, when I used to teach at Young Writers Conferences.
Yes, TV.
When I started teaching at Young Writers Conferences when I was 16. That was my first one. And it was really interesting because a lot of the people that I taught with were much older than me and were very, like, some of them were lovely and some of them were really almost threatened by the fact that I was there teaching, and I was also self-published at the time too. So it was like, and then they found out that I was writing like fantasy and all that kind of stuff. And it was just really interesting. I just don't understand why this kind of antagonistic view of fantasy from other genres. I don't understand it. And I was told by somebody once, and I didn't have the right answer at the time, and I will have this conversation with this person a different time in my life. But they said, I don't want to read fantasy because I only want to read books that I can learn something from. And I was like, I've read a lot of literary fiction. I've read a lot of different genres, right? I've read some incredible literary fiction. I've also read a lot of literary fiction that is trying so hard to show human experience that it's like heavy-handed and just obtuse. And fantasy oftentimes, in my opinion, does it even better. And that's, of course, my opinion, but it's just, I just don't understand I don't understand that.
Let me explain
mindset.
to you. Sometimes the only thing that literary fiction is teaching anybody is to hate reading. That's what they're learning. They're learning to hate reading because it's so flipping pretentious. It's just weighted down with its own ego. Like, pretentious people make me mad. Like, I don't like pretentious people because, like,
that's probably my cat.
Oh, okay. I thought it was one of my
Yeah,
cats outside.
she gets to this point at night, and she's 11 years old, and she stalks the hallways and meows to let us all know that she's a mighty hunter, and she's going after her mouse now.
Like, I
Yeah.
thought one of my cats had gotten outside
No,
somehow.
it's mine.
Oh.
Anita, that's Novia, my older cat.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, when I was teaching, thank you, Katie, I appreciate that. I was always, I got so nervous teaching. It's not a skill set of mine, but I loved, because I usually taught 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And that was I stayed far away from the high schoolers. I taught them a couple of times, would never do it again because that's just did not go well. But the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders were just, they were at that lovely age where the teacher was still cool. They hadn't hit hormones yet. And like, there's just, it's a great age. And these kids would get so excited about reading and writing. And I had them in there. We would listen to soundtracks and then write a little bit based on the music we were listening to. And then I'd have them write something else based on a different song with a different mood. And it was like we were kind of exploring the art of writing, as opposed to a lot of these more dry classes that they were going through. And I always, like, I felt so bad because the kids were always like, oh my gosh, this was my favorite class by far, which made me really happy. But it was also like, why are we not doing more of this?
Yeah.
Why are we not celebrating like all the different, I digress, but
it's going to turn into an education talk.
I know, but it's funny because I mean, I get it to some degree because I mean,
look, you talk with me long enough, any conversation leads back to education.
It's so true though, Derry. I mean, when I was growing up, I grew up in a way that it was very difficult for me to learn how to process emotions. Books taught me how to do that, honestly. And I've never, like, I've never learned as much about being human and processing experiences and emotions than I have through books. Not ever.
Almost my entire vocabulary has come from reading. And let me tell you what I didn't pick up. Freaking like literary thing.
Litfic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this attempt to just prove that you're better than other people.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we have, and I don't know why, and again, ain't none of us perfect. You know, I ain't perfect and I'm never gonna be, but I do know I won't play for anybody. But what is the movie? I won't play for anybody, but they get rid of him. I ain't perfect. Ain't none of us gonna be. I won't play for anybody, but Coach Boone or whatever. That's what they stand at. They try to get rid of him.
Yep.
Yeah, I read that a long time ago. Derry, leave me alone.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, Thiago, and that's something that I always try to remember because, or they just haven't. It's sad to me because I think people haven't had the experience that I've had reading fantasy and or fiction. And that makes me sad for them because it's like, there's so many beautiful things in these books and you're missing out. And that makes me very upset.
Yeah.
Hi, Nero.
Hello, Nero.
I am going to draw 2 more of these.
Thank you. Go read books. It is Remember the Titans, one of my favorite movies of all time.
I haven't seen that in ages.
So good. I got the Blu-ray for Christmas.
Nice.
I gotta watch it.
How old is that movie?
Like 90, no, 2006 or something.
Early 2000s. Okay.
2000.
Okay. The Iliad.
No, Angels in the Outfield. I don't know if there's angels, but I do know that I won't play for anybody but George Knox. That's what it's from. Sorry, I knew it. I knew I had it. I think
I've seen that one too, actually. Now that sounds really familiar.
My brother and I, when we went to the summers with our mom, my mom worked, so Ryan and I stayed home, and we watched Mighty Ducks 2, Cool Runnings.
Was Emilio Estevez in that one too?
Mighty Ducks 2, Cool Runnings, and Angels in the Outfield
so good
on repeat.
Oh yeah.
And so I know all of the words to all of the because we watched them so many times. Oh my gosh. Right. Like Christina doesn't know what to do when my brother's over. because we will literally just start doing a scene from Angels in the Outfield, and
Yeah.
she keeps thinking we're gonna stop. It's like, no, we still
We
know
have
the
to keep.
words. Yeah.
Cool Runnings is such a good, like, if
Yes,
anybody in the
yes!
chat has
Okay.
not seen
Cool
that
Runnings.
movie, it is so good.
Christina saw it the first time with me. She'd never seen it. I showed it to her.
Yep.
Ian, yes, you sure do have a big chin. Everybody's a critic. Yes. You can't fire me. I'm Ranch Wilder. So, sorry, the Iliad and
Oh, it's fine. The Iliad and Justice of Kings.
I mean, I'm not gonna do Homer like that. Like
that's what I figured.
the
The Iliad was
I
kind of a.
I do a show about the Iliad. So, like, if I did a one-man show about Justice of Kings, it might feel differently. I should.
Yeah, you should try it.
Like Richard.
Richard would love that, I'm sure.
That would be awesome.
I was gonna say the. It's true. I was gonna say one of my favorite movies of all time is another movie that Emilio Estevez was in.
You're gonna say The Breakfast Club. I know you are. No. Thank you.
Nope.
Thank you. What is it?
I didn't mind that movie, but I wouldn't say it's like, oh, favorite movie. No.
What?
No. Young Guns.
I haven't seen that. Is that about?
It is about Billy the Kid. Emilio Estevez plays Billy the Kid, and it's a motley crew of young guys who get caught up in the wrong side of the law. And it's.
Why do you like the Motley Crew so much?
I don't know. I think there's a couple of reasons. One, I love sociology and interactions between closely knit groups of people.
But is it a Motley Crew if they're close? Isn't the Motley Crew
not necessarily? Like, I also love it when sometimes there are Motley Crews that are thrown together out of necessity, and some of them. Never Die is a great example of that.
You would Never Die.
I'm gonna keep. You know what? You and all of the books you always recommend.
Tori, like
yeah, I can. It's my channel.
You read Augustus. There are two sets of laws. One for me.
Yeah.
And then one for everyone else.
No, I do not accept that. No, I would say it's not the same as Found Family because it's not necessarily always friends. A motley crew can also be people working together, like I said, out of necessity. You can have, a group of prisoners in it could be any random group of people, all very different, thrown together.
What book is it? What book is it? I see that I do have a Voxer, but I can't. It would be rude if I'm like, hold on, Tori, I'm listening to this Voxer message.
I mean,
I'm
curious now.
Look, everyone hates it. I mean, here's the thing: if everyone hates it and I've read it, I probably do like it. I probably haven't read it. It's probably gonna be the answer. That The Magicians. I have not read it, but everyone does hate it. Everyone does in fact hate it. But I have not read it. That's who is that by? It's got a double S somewhere in the I was right. Grossman, Lev Grossman. I knew there was a double S in the name.
That's true, Arliss. I do think, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yes, they are. And if we let's take our own responsibility. We're hard on the romance people too. You can always punch down at the romance readers. Like seriously, everyone feels like, well, at least I don't read trashy Harlequin romance novels like my grandma, right? Like, poo, punch down. So I mean, we're not free of guilt there. Yep.
It's true. And I'm the type of person too where I really don't like romance I almost never like romance in the books that I read. Very few that I actually enjoy. Because I think it can go cheesy so easily and so quickly. And some people love that, and that's fine. I personally dislike 98% of romance books.
I don't like romance.
But that I don't think there's anything wrong with the genre. If that's what people love to read. Again,
because I have to have a punching bag. I don't know what my life is without something.
The one that I struggle with that I will get on is ACOTAR for the same. I mean,
It's because it's not good.
Right, and that's the thing. It's not that there's a romance in it. That's not why I don't like it.
Yeah, no, it's the fact that it's not good. It's the fact they don't do anything but sit around and eat dinner and then talk about things. They talk about doing things all the time, and then they don't do anything. And also, I'm sorry, but if you are going to write long-lived races, you have to write them believably. You cannot put that riddle out into the universe and pretend like no one solved it in 100 years. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, you can't do that.
Chago, I have already read the first 3 books of A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I have a rant video, and that is what you are getting. Although I'm sure at some point I could use it as a punishment, but I don't want to read it again. I don't want to read it again.
I would prefer, I don't like romance in books because I think too much time is focused on it. And like the things I don't care. Like, I don't care that people want to like rub their bits together. Like, I don't care. Like, it's
Shogun. Sorry.
You've literally seen me forget that any of that was in the book.
Yeah.
Completely forget it. And I think most romances are just they're just distractions, and they're not actual character explorations. Every now and then you see a really good one. But most of the time it's just like, most of the time romance is put in there so someone can put some sex in their book, and that's not what I'm interested in. Now, it is totally fine if that's what people like, if people like that in their books. I don't care about people doing it in my TV shows. I don't care about people doing it in my movies. I don't care about people doing it in my books or my video games. Like, I am not doing this so that I can see other people doing it. That is not interesting to me. Like, I am doing this so I can watch these people do all the other stuff that they're doing. So if it has to be in there, I'm fine if they're like, giggle, giggle, drag into the inn, ooh, and then the next chapter. I get it. They did it. And look, they're happy the next day. Okay. Let's move along, shall we? But when it's like, and it's like, why do we have 20 pages? Like, what am I getting out of watching you?
That's the thing. I mean, in the book that I'm writing, or the trilogy, there will be romances because realistically there have to be relationships in these books, right? Because that's real life. But to me, it's like, what can I say about these characters through the relationships that they have, whether they are platonic or negative or romantic or anything? I'm not just putting them together because, these two will be really cute together. Like, that's just not my thing.
It happens so rarely, but watching a male and female protagonist have no romantic chemistry is really interesting.
Yeah.
I
have a pair of characters in my trilogy I think you're really gonna like.
My oldest friend is a girl. We've known each other since the 3rd grade. And we have never, like, that's never been a thing. Like, we've just, and there have been like periods of our life that we hadn't talked at all. But like, we have been friends for what was like 8 when we met, like for freaking 32 years. And I just think there's something interesting about that isn't explored enough. And that's
totally.
Not Edith, Evie. That's why I like Edith, and that's why I love the character of Edith so much in the Cinderland books, is because of that very reason.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, when I grew up, especially when I was preteen and teen years, and especially in college, I have honestly an easier time hanging out with and talking to guys than I do other women, because and especially when I was younger, like obviously now I don't, but when I was younger, I was really struggling with that because they never talked about things and they were so complicated and everybody was so catty. And I just was like, that was just not it.
And Derry, I agree with you. I think the relationship between Sam Vimes and Sybil Rampkin is one of the best portrayals of marriage, where it is not perfect and they are not the same person, but it is a relationship built on understanding and a desire to change and a desire to have what both people want out of the relationship and out of their lives. And Murphy is reading the Watch books right now and is discovering a love for Lady Sybil because she's amazing. And this, again, you need to put this on the bingo card, Derry. I try to tell my students, because that's how it always starts. I try to teach my students because the boys, especially teenage boys, believe that doing what their girlfriend, or when I talk about my wife, they literally laugh at me when I say, yeah, my wife wanted to do this. I didn't really want to do it, but like I went and did it anyway. And they laugh because I didn't do what I wanted to do, and I did something that my wife wanted to do instead. They think that that means that they're like, oh, I had a child 1 year say the word simp to me, and it has never been done again. I'm like, you think that I'm a simp because I did something nice? You think that me being nice to my wife makes me somehow whipped? Like, you guys don't understand what you're talking about. Like, it is not like you're not being a wuss to do something that someone else wants to do. I am doing that because I love my wife and I don't care that much about getting my way all the time. So I don't know, like, what's funnier here, but the idea that you think you know anything about relationships is hilarious to me. So I try to because you know what they grow up on? They grow up on the internet.
Right.
And that is what they think. They grow up on the internet and they grow up with all this stuff that says that, like, oh, that's how they have to act. They got to do this nag. They got to nag this crap and like be mean because that's going to make the girl want them and all that stuff. And I'm like, y'all, no, like being a douchebag is not like, that's not the way. I'm sorry. It's just not. And
well, and it, right. Yeah. Christina
got home. She wasn't here. And I tell them, I'm like, guys, if you don't like your girlfriend anymore, no one's saying you have to marry them. That's fine. If you don't want to be with your girlfriend anymore, break up with her. Do not stay with her and then go hook up with somebody else. You don't get it both ways. You have to choose. You can either have the girl you're with or that other one you want, not both.
Yeah. And I totally agree, Derry. And this goes with any relationship, in my opinion. It's like, okay, the idea that we are in relationships for what we get out of it, like, it's so incredibly immature. People, and I see people getting married with that mindset all the time. And I'm like, guys, that's not going to work because this, and it doesn't work in friendships either. No. Like, you can't go into a friendship and say, okay, what am I going to get from this person? Yeah. Learn to love them in their love language. How about that idea? Like, that's hard. My husband and I have completely different interests when it outside of like writing and reading. Yeah. He loves gardening. It's just not my thing. But I sit with him and look at, all of the different hot pepper varieties because I love him and I love that he is excited about it. And it's something that I'm showing him I care because I'm taking an interest in something he's interested in. Yes. And you know what? It's not a hardship. That's
the fact that I have to tell my children that kindness is not a weakness is bizarre to me. Like, they think that like it just, there is like, it is like, what did Derry's saying something that makes my best friend happy is not a hardship. It is not a hardship for me to now. That doesn't mean that like you're always going to get along with someone. You're not. But the problem is everyone is afraid to admit that they're wrong, as if you did something wrong, you are a horrible human being who deserves to be dragged again. To bring it back, dragged to the middle of town, have a gibbet constructed, and hung by the neck until dead.
I think we should add gibbet to the bingo card.
Probably should. Every time I see that word in Parker, I'm like, just say the gallows.
It's a great word. That's a great word.
But like, there's nothing wrong with like saying, "Hey, I'm sorry. Like, that was my bad." Like, I had a buddy of mine and I had like a misunderstanding just the other night, and I don't have a problem being like, you know what, that's my bad. Like, like I will accept my culpability in that. You know what? Because I don't want to stay mad at people. I don't want people to stay mad at me. I don't want to stay mad at people. And guess what?
Yes, but Alan, that's individual. That's individual responsibility.
And it's not that important for me to be right. Like, I know people think that I have to be right all the time. Like, I know that's what it seems like. It's not that important for me to be right. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like Christina always says, there's always a point, if we ever have an argument, there's a point where the argument's been going on for, 20 minutes or whatever, that I realize that this whole thing's dumb. And I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Like, I'm sorry. And then it's over. It's like whatever. Like what we're arguing about is immaterial. Like it is not an
Right.
important thing that we are arguing about. We got in an argument once about a dog that doesn't exist, a theoretical dog we might get one day. And I realized, I'm like, this is the dumbest argument I've ever had in my life. Like, I'm sorry that it ever got to this point. And, you know, we moved it up. See, even Murphy is on the side of the tyrant.
Murphy's on the tyrant train here. Hi, Michael.
It's the only reason I can do my job is the fact that I am on a mission to civilize one kid at a time. Like, there are too many douchebags in the world.
Yep.
The ones that I get for 2, 3, sometimes even 4 years. Like if they can be less douchey when they leave my class, or at least think about what they do, like give a thought to other people. And again, I'm not perfect either. Like I trample over people with accidental regularity. You know, and I'm not always kind. But I try to be, but I don't succeed all the time. Sometimes I'm mean. Sometimes I yell at a student because it's not that student's fault that 20 students have asked me that same question or wanted the same thing from them, and they happen to be the last one that I can't take anymore. And then I scream at them. And I did that yesterday, and I felt bad because it's not that kid's fault. Like that 20 kids came before them. So, you know, but the thing is, I always apologize to my students. If I lose my cool on them for something that they did not deserve, I will apologize to them. And they do not see that very often. But anyway.
This is, I wanted to point to Sarah on the same Tory Male, friendships are easier. And then T from Erudite Adventure, I have a way easier time making friends. I think that's another thing that I want to see, just platonic relationships. This is one of my biggest pet peeves. When we were in college, I had a friend of mine who was giving her English capstone presentation for her BA degree. And she was talking about platonic relationships in fiction. And one of our professors literally sat there and was like, I don't believe platonic relationships that's just not a thing that can happen. They will always have feelings for each other, no matter what. Romantic feelings, no matter what. It's not possible. And I'm just sitting in the back of this room, just like, so like, it just absolutely drives me nuts. Can we please just normalize platonic relationships, please? It's like, that's my PSA for the evening.
But at the same time, especially teenagers need to be aware when someone wants something from them. I tell my students, words cost nothing. They are free. That is why politicians use so many of them. It costs them nothing. They will say anything they need to get what they want from you. You have to be aware. Like, you cannot, like, Oh, he told you, he's never met anybody like you. Oh, you're the most beautiful girl. You know who he said that to? The last girl. He said that to the last girl too. Like, don't be dumb. Like, don't be dumb. Like, please. Like, it doesn't cost him anything. If he knows that if saying I love you will like placate you, and then he goes and like sleeps with like 3 other people, he does not love you. He just knows that makes you pliant. Like, come on, guys. Yeah. Come on. Like, actions, words have to be followed up by actions. Yeah. Anyway.
Yep. I'm trying to catch up. There's been a lot of great comments that I'm trying to. Yeah, it kind of goes back to that quote, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Yeah. Like, that's one that I try to keep in mind too, because I don't know what happened to that person right before I talk to them. Even if I'm at like, I'm at a Target or something and the person that's checking me out is really grumpy. I don't know what kind of day they've had. Like, maybe they just got yelled at by their manager or had a really awful customer or whatever. And it doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it's still like, I also don't know.
For sure.
This is so true, Jen. And this is something that I work really hard on with my kids, is reminding them constantly, like when they make a mistake. We talk about mistakes as a general concept and how everyone makes mistakes. And I give examples of when I make mistakes, and I always apologize to them, because that that is like one of the biggest things I'm trying to, I don't want them to grow up thinking that their parents are perfect, because that's scary.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything else.
I try to tell them that. As a teacher, I can't say that exact thing, but I do try to talk around that very thing, because that is true, and they know that, and it's just disgusting. Like, it is disgusting the stuff that I hear goes on outside of school among high school students. It's absolutely vile. Like,
Yep.
like I'm like, why are you telling me? Go tell the police. I cannot do anything. Go tell the police, please. Like, it's just, it's absolutely like abominable the way that some of these people, and these are teenagers. They're teenagers.
Right. Oh yeah. Yep. I grew up around some pretty awful teenagers, so I totally get it.
Yeah, it's just, anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah, relationships in general are difficult. But again, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. If you go into it with you get to a point, like I'm at a point in my life now where I put my energy into people that I know, like I'm old enough now to know when people are taking advantage of me. And I'm also realizing that my life is shorter than I thought it was. And I don't want to pour all my energy into relationships that aren't a two-way street.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to expect that, and I'm going to give that.
Yeah.
So
the thing is, Sarah, I used to be a douchebag. Like, when I tell my students, I talk from a perspective of, I used to do many of these things that I'm telling you should not do. Like, I was not a kind person. I was not. I thought I was, but I was not. I acted like I was better than people because I was smarter than them. We had a friend that we used. He was the guy. He was like a net. Like, it was just like, he was the guy that was up for anything, but we never let him actually play. Like, we had Mario Party, but like, there's only 4 people who can play Mario Party, and he was the 5th. And we always let him hang out. We never let him play. And we always sent him downstairs to get us soda. Like, hey, go get a soda. And in high school, every day I'd be like, hey, give me some money so I can get some Shock Tarts out of that vending machine. And he gave me 75 cents every single day. And we were not kind to him. And when he like stopped letting us treat him like that, we're like, well, what are we going to do with you now if you're not going to go get us sodas and stuff? And we stopped, and we developed an actual friendship with him instead of him being our pack mule. But I was not kind either. I was mean to a lot of people, but it's because I was really, really nice as a kid, and some people were really, really mean to me, and I decided that was not going to happen again. And so I decided to be the meanest.
To flip the switch. Yep.
And it worked, because people couldn't be mean to me. Because if you were, I will literally yell at you in public. Like, I will make you weep because I'm mean. And I know enough, because I know enough about you to know what makes you sad. So why don't I just say it loudly in public? I'm not proud of many things I did when I was younger. And it wasn't until I was 30 that I decided that was not going to happen. I mean, part of it is I got saved and was like, hey, what if I didn't act this way? And it was slow. It was slow going. And now I'm not perfect, but I do value kindness, which is something I never valued before in my life. So anyway, I didn't know. I know Philip knew I used to be mean. I didn't know if you knew I used to be like super mean.
I mean, I think you've made allusions to things on different chats we've had and stuff, but it's interesting because like going back to like it's so weird to like, I think that goes back to how much do we believe in those redemption arcs that we always love in books, right? Sure. And how much, like, I love stories where you see a character who acts a certain way or is really just either clueless or mean or etc. More intelligent words here. And then you almost want them to because you can see like it could be there, and then when you have that redemption arc, it's like, thank you.
Yeah. Well, my mom and my dad wept, and they're divorced. They wept separately because I didn't have anything to do with them, because I was mad at everybody. Like my life sucked because of everyone else. It's everyone else's fault. Not the string of bad decisions that I just kept making about my life. And I didn't talk to my brother for a decade. I did not talk to my younger brother for 10 years because I was angry at him for having an easier life. Like, because he was younger when I had to protect him from all the dumb crap growing up. And I thought he was unappreciative. And I found out. And then, so when I decided that I was gonna get my act together, I made up with my brother. I just called his wife and I said, hey, let's go out to eat. And I made up with my brother and my dad. And my dad was like, I've been praying for this for like literally like 8 years. And I never thought y'all would talk again. And now Ryan and I are super close. Awesome. And I realized after I talked to him that when he was in high school, after I moved out of the house, one of his friends was screwing around wrestling on the bleachers, and he smashed his head and has a concussion. He doesn't remember. He remembers hardly nothing from our childhood. So I'm holding him accountable for not being appreciative of stuff that happened in our childhood that he doesn't remember. And I hate the fact that I lost 10 years with my brother. But now we're super close. And my wife and his wife are, they go and eat, and my mom has like daughter-in-law breakfast. And every time she's like, I'm going to have breakfast with your mom and Sarah. And I say, why? They're so boring. Like, why do you go? And I would hate to go and sit there. I love my mom. My mom is not interesting anymore. But so anyway, I don't know what's happening with this conversation, but
I love it. This is one of the things that I love about the more laid back chats, though, is getting to know the person more. Yeah. And obviously you and I have talked a lot on different social media platforms and live streams and Voxer and whatever. But it was interesting because as you were saying that, I had a conversation with a close friend of mine recently where she's going through some hard things and trying to understand how to forgive people in her life that have done stuff. And I went through some pretty awful stuff in my childhood, teen years, and in a way that doesn't have closure, where I can't confront the people that were perpetrators. And she was asking me, like, how do I forgive these people? How do I get to that point? And I had a hard time articulating it at first. And then I just kind of went back to, I think I've gotten to a point in my life where I genuinely want better for them than they wanted for themselves in that moment. Yeah. Like, I want them to be better. I want them to have a positive impact on other people in their life. And I don't want that. It's that letting go of that vengeance side of things, And
I mean, there's that famous saying of like, unforgiveness is like taking poison and expecting the other person to drop dead. Like,
100%.
Forgiveness isn't for them. It's for you. So it doesn't rot you away on the inside. Now, forgiveness does not mean like you don't have to accept someone back in your life. Like, if someone wronged you, you have no obligation to like interact with them in any way. That's not what forgiveness is. Like, forgiveness is an internal thing. Like, you can forgive someone and have nothing to do with that person ever again. Like, and that goes
back to boundaries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like, you can forgive someone and that then let go of that anger and that vengeance that you want. But you also, like, that same level of trust does not have to be given again.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Those two things are not the same thing.
Yeah. One of the biggest gut punches I had before I made up with my brother is I was up at my family's lake house, but I didn't realize my brother had reserved it. And so him and his family went up there. But I was up there and I wasn't going to leave. They were going to force me out. Mm-hmm. And so I was just kind of staying out of their way. And so my brother, my sister-in-law and my oldest nephew, who was like 5 at the time, they're out on the raft in the lake. And I was just swam up to it. And my 5-year-old nephew said to his mom, "Mama, who's that?" And she was like, "That's your Uncle Alan." And I don't, like, it affected me. I'm like, my nephew does not know who I am. Like, he has no idea who I am. And that sat with me for a while.
Yeah.
And I still feel bad about it. But I love my nephews now. And I let my oldest borrow all of my Dritz books. And nice. He's read all of them now.
How old is he?
He is 7th grade. So I think he's 13.
Okay.
Christina, Scotty's 13, right? She can't hear me. I think he's 13. Scotty is 13, right? Yeah, he's 13.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
That's perfect.
I agree, PL.
Yeah, I agree. You don't have to forget, but you can forgive.
Yeah. And that's, again, that goes into a whole discussion about boundaries. And I think like one of the things that I've worked really hard on in therapy is learning how to readjust boundaries, because oftentimes people have boundaries that they shouldn't have, and they don't have the boundaries that they should, and they're all completely out of whack.
Oh yeah, like forgiveness is one of the hardest things humans can do.
100%.
I'm supposed to forgive this piece of human filth that ran over his girlfriend and then sped away and changed me, Dustin, and Anna's life, because he's on some kind of drug or drunk in the middle of the day. Even how angry I just got talking about this, like, we are struggling in this household to forgive this guy.
Yeah.
Who was walking free on
which
bond.
Is fair.
Yeah. And so, but like, what good is it going to do to not forgive him? Right. Like, he's not going to, like, well,
and that goes, like, being angry at what he did is also a different thing than, like, forgiveness doesn't mean a lack of anger at the event that happened.
Like Derek says, it doesn't mean things go back to normal. Like, no. It's just an agreement to move forward if you're going to continue to have contact. Yeah.
Right.
But with this, like, it's just hard to not like the attorney sent me a form saying, hey, this is going to be his court date or whatever. It starts with, unfortunately, you have been a victim of a crime. And then it like has on the back, information and how much restitution you expect and suggested sentencing. It has a place to write it in. And I said, Christina, life without parole. I said, write life without parole. Write life without parole. Like, that's what I want. I want life without. I want the gibbet. Like, that's what I want. Like,
Allen's City Square gibbet is being erected immediately.
I don't actually want hanging by the neck till death, but I do want life without parole. But he can kill anybody. But
yeah.
But yeah, unforgiveness is hard. What is this? What? It's hot. I gotta get some more drink. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Yeah, Derry, I wanted to highlight this too. That's one of the reasons why I'm pretty open about it on my channel and in conversations, because I don't think there should be any stigma whatsoever about people going to therapy for anything. I think like pretty much everyone can benefit from therapy at any point. So yeah, I try to be really open about that because I think there's still way too much of a stigma about it. Yep, the gibbet. It's happening. It's true, Arliss. Sometimes it is like forgiving ourselves is honestly just as hard, because oftentimes we don't even recognize that we need to, and getting over that denial phase can be really hard too. I'll show him that when he comes back, Thiago. Derek, are we surprised? Probably not. We're not surprised by that. Yep, it's true. Yep. Yeah, and I mean, I'm happy to share that I've learned so many healthy coping mechanisms and mindset changes from therapy. It's been incredibly helpful. Finding the right therapist is important, obviously, but I mean, it's a book friends chat with Allen. I'm really not surprised. See you later, T. Thanks for hanging out with us. I still haven't finished my wine, guys. It's been sitting here for like an hour, I think. See if I missed anything else. I've had family members that don't talk to each other for 30 plus years, and it's just hard. I mean, it's hard when it's that much of a chasm. You need to build a really big bridge, and it's tough to do that. Yeah, I hear that, Sarah. Very true, Derry. You know what, Katie? It's really funny that you say that, actually, because I felt like I hit a new maturity point in my life when I realized how little I actually knew. Like, you go through this phase of life where you feel like you know everything. You're 16, 17 in your early 20s, and you're getting out in the world and you know everything. And then you get to
because I do
Alan's still in that phase.
No, I do know everything. That's the difference. I don't think so.
You've gotten to a point where you do know everything.
I have reached true enlightenment.
And you're 40, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I know that I only have 8 years left, and then I will also know everything.
No, I reached transcendence early.
Okay. So what age should I be expecting that, do you think?
Okay, bye, Murphy. What is happening with my camera? Sorry. I don't know what I even said. I've forgotten.
You've hit transcendency at an earlier age than 40. Yes.
I do know everything except what we're talking about.
Night, Murphy. It's true, Derek. Honestly, if I could, I wouldn't want to leave the stream, but I would have refilled my glass by now.
What were you talking about while I was gone?
We were talking about forgiveness, and we were talking about how it's important to remove the stigma around going to therapy, which is why I'm very open about it on my channel.
My autobiography is I
wanted to. Yeah, I was going to show that to you. I'm glad you saw it.
I've been going to therapy since I was in college, because since we're being real on this anyway, I love it. My stepmom and I have never gotten along, and my dad is very passive, and it's fine now. We get along now. It's fine, but I did not like my stepmom, and she was mean. I mean, she was mean. But like, my parents sent me to talk to some doctor, and they put me on medication. I didn't want it. They thought I had an anger problem. It's no, I have a stepmom problem, and I have Asperger's, which I realize now. It's you right. Literally don't understand anything about me. And so I didn't like any of that. But when I hit college, I got free counseling at the university, and I went once a week, and I loved that guy. And then he left because he got a new job, and I had to get another guy. I didn't want another guy. I wanted the guy I just had, because again, Asperger's. But I've been seeing a counselor. The problem is there are so many terrible mental health counselors. Mm-hmm. I live in a crap town. The options for mental health for counselors here are freaking terrible. I went after Christine and I got married. I had a really really bad mental health couple years. Mm-hmm. And we finally went and got help, but we had to go an hour out of town. And then she moved to to South Florida, and I haven't had anybody to see since then. I have someone who rewrites my prescription so I can stay on my medication. But she was the best, and then she had to move, and it just sucks here. But I grew up in the era where mental health was extremely stigmatized. Yeah. Now it's almost gone the other direction, where I agree. Everyone has something wrong. Oh my gosh, I'm just so no, you don't. No, you just because you get anxious doesn't mean you have anxiety.
Well, I think social media
sad doesn't mean you're depressed.
Social media has also kind of turned it into in some ways not legitimate mental health issues, but it has also become kind of a social media bandwagon and or fad, which is something that's really difficult for me to watch.
It's so frustrating.
It's really frustrating.
Don't have those things. It's because in our culture, words don't mean anything anymore. They don't. Words mean nothing. Oh my gosh, I'm so depressed. No, you're sad. You are sad. You are not having a depressive episode. You're just having a bad day. That's okay. And that's okay. And the problem is, as always, policy doesn't follow the change in the culture. So it is so difficult to get mental health care in this country. I have insurance, and it's still freaking expensive to go see a counselor. If you don't have insurance, you're not seeing a counselor. Like you're not. The only way you're going to see a counselor is if you try. If you get Baker acted, you're forced to, because you don't have the money. You don't have the money. It's too expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I mean, having DID, dissociative identity disorder, for anyone in the chat who doesn't know.
Hold on. Repeat what you just said.
I have dissociative identity disorder.
What?
Which I'm pretty sure I have said in a live stream with you before, but I can't.
No,
or after a live stream. Okay.
I promise you that I would remember. What?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna call it what it's called. You have multiple
DID.
Personality disorder?
No, I have DID, but yes, that's the old term. Yes.
Yeah, I know that is the old term. That is the old term. That's why these people trying to tell me that I don't have Asperger's. Don't tell me what I don't have. I have Asperger's. Don't take that away from me.
Yeah, what I was gonna say with it. Yeah, we can talk about that more later if you want.
I'm putting a pin.
Sounds good.
That's fascinating.
My point with that was that, like, you can't just hop around therapists with that.
Yeah.
Because that's, a fairly complicated disorder. And where was I going with that? I got a little derailed. Oh, just that, like, even with a severe trauma-based disorder, insurance, like, we just, for the first time, I've been going to a therapist since like 2019 was when I got diagnosed with it. And this year is the first year that we got a program where my therapy visits are covered, which is insane to me.
It is really difficult to get mental health care. Like the odds are stacked against you. Like, one, it's hard to find anybody who's any good. And then a lot of times, either they are terrible at their job. I'm sorry, if I walk into your office and I tell you what's wrong with me and you believe me, you're a bad therapist. Like, right. You're bad if you listen to me, because if I self-diagnosed, like, you don't agree with me. Like, you freaking, like, unless I have documentation, run me through the freaking, like, paperwork and tests. Mm-hmm. Second, a lot of it is just overprescription of medications. Completely. Like, people being so doped up. That's what happened to my mom. My mom was undiagnosed bipolar for most of my life. Now, my mom used to be really interesting. My mom is so boring now, but she's happy because she's medicated and not like, she's not bipolar, like, or she is, but she's just, it's medicated. And so I'm glad for her, but it has made her way more boring. Like she is no longer just ready. Like,
your poor mom.
My mom's had a tough life. Like a really tough life. But it's too expensive. It's too expensive. It's hard to find good care. It's too expensive.
It is, and that's the thing. Like you said, not all therapists are created equal, and especially where, especially depending on what you have, like, it is very difficult for people to even diagnose you correctly and all of that. So,
well, Katie, when I went to a therapist and I was talking about what was wrong with me, and they said, "Have you ever heard of Asperger's?" And I said, "That's like high functioning autism." Like, yeah. And he was reading things out. I'm like, "I don't have autism." Like, for a year, I walked away from that, and for a year, I do not have autism. I am not autistic. And then I got fired from a job, and I got fired for a reason. I still don't understand why I was fired. I still have no idea why I got fired. What happened is my boss had told me I needed to be on a call with some higher ups in the company and listen and take down what was being said, whatever. I was going to be out of town. So I contacted the person who was holding the meeting, the person who is above my boss. And they were like, "Oh no, that's totally fine. Like, don't worry about it. We'll get it to you, whatever." I got fired for not attending that meeting. I still don't understand. I still don't understand. I went to Barnes & Noble, or Books A Million. We know Barnes & Noble. After that, I went to Books A Million, and I was walking, and I just happened to be walking past a section, and I saw the Asperger's and You book, and I picked it up, and I started reading through it, and I was like, "Holy crap. Holy crap. Holy crap. And then, so then I went to a doctor, and then, I got diagnosed, but I did not want to be autistic. And I think autism has and one thing that I've really liked is being on BookTube. I've had a lot of people say that they appreciate that I'm open about
Mm.
the fact that I have autism, and that like it's not like my life isn't over, or like I like my life. Like most of the time I love the fact that I'm autistic, because like I'm not boring. Like I think of things in cool ways. Like but a lot of times I hate it. And my students too. My students who are freaking weird. Like it's easy to tell which ones are autistic. They come to my classroom. It's easy to tell. But I tell them, like, you can be weird. Like, if someone calls you weird, who cares? They're a teenager. They don't know anything. What do they know? Like, what? Like, who cares what this guy thinks? These people don't know anything. Just like you don't know anything either. You teenager, by default, you don't know anything because you're teenagers. So there's a stigma, though.
Oh, for sure. Well, and I mean, a lot of people, I think, it's a problem if I'm going into it thinking I want to have a diagnosis so that I can have a label, so that I can use it as a crutch or any of these other things. That's not why you should get a diagnosis.
Well, that comes back to the obsession with trying to find identity.
Right.
And so people want to find their identity in that too, which goes back to why everybody gets mad in the fandoms.
For me, it was more like, oh my gosh, makes like everything suddenly makes sense.
That was my life. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there's a reason why I'm not actually broken after feeling like I was for, ages. And it completely changes your life when you have the right mindset about it.
Seriously, looking back on my life and seeing this poor kid struggling who had no idea, no idea what was wrong with me. But what I'm saying with Katie is the reason her mom like won't admit that she has autism is probably just because there's a stigma. There's a stigma with autism.
Yeah.
They want to, and then again, the older generation, like I would have just been the weird kid. I was the weird kid growing up.
Yeah.
Because Asperger's wasn't even a diagnosis till 95. So in my parents' defense, I couldn't even have been diagnosed till high school anyway. So, because the spectrum is just huge. Can we return to the fact that you have DID? Like, I have never met someone who has, and this is fascinating. This can't be real. Like, it can't be real. Like I believe it. I'm definitely not saying it's not true. But like,
it's funny. I'm at a point in my life.
That's not stuff that happens in real life. Like real people don't have the
and
ID.
that's
only people in movies.
Because and there was a comment up there about should we call you Sybil now? And what I want to highlight about that is it's because it's so incredibly sensationalized. In the media representation of DID is so awful. First of all,
so it's not
awful.
So it's not like it is in movies.
Well, I actually had somebody ask me after I was diagnosed. So it's like Split. I don't know if you've ever seen Split.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen Identity, which is
Split is a very popular movie. James McAvoy put in an Oscar-worthy performance. However, it is a horrible, horrible depiction of DID. And stuff. So my point with that is like, it's a very misunderstood disorder is my point. And it's funny to me because
so you don't all of a sudden start talking in a different accent and like,
well, I won't get too far into it on a live stream, but what I will say is, yes, I have alters. So yes.
No.
Yes. Yeah, this is another show. Please, like another one. Massive.
I love that actress. Have you seen About a Boy? She's brilliant.
She's a very good actress. Toni Collette. Yeah. Brilliant actress.
About a Boy is so good.
The show.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nat.
I'm trying to process this because, like, I don't know how to process what's being said to me. That's
okay.
So weird. So interesting. Like, that's so interesting. I have to know.
Thank you, Nat. I'm, it's funny too, because
We can
I'm
talk
not,
about it on a live stream.
yeah. And I'm happy
Whatever
to
you
do
want
that,
to share.
especially, and I'm very open about it with people that I'm closer to and friends. So that's totally fine. But yeah, I've kind of started being open about it on my channel, just to say that I have it. I don't talk about it in depth on my channel in the public videos as much as just saying I have it. But it's, again, part of it is me trying to remove some of that stigma, because you see people in movies and you're like, oh, and it's like, no, it's me. It's not, Sybil or the guy in Split or, so I think it's a lot more hidden and normalized than I think people realize.
Katie, you work in STEM. There's a lot of that in your field. Like, just because being able to hyper focus and having that kind of special interest and a disengagement with like the social aspect, which again is not everybody, but is a common trait of people on the spectrum, that you find a lot of people in STEM, like engineering and
Katie was explaining I'm going to get this horribly wrong, Katie. I'm so sorry. She was explaining nuclear reactive materials to me.
Yes, she did that on a sprint once to me.
And I was like,
it's the most fascinating thing. I love knowing about.
It's so cool.
I love knowing about things I don't know. Like, I love knowing about things I don't know. Oh,
I'm not.
Katie, you're a nuclear physicist. Do you know what SCRAM stands for? The word scram, like SCRAM. It started with the nuclear thing. I want to see if Katie knows. No one ever knows when I ask them if people know the origin of scram. But if Katie knows, I'm gonna do a loop around my chair.
Yeah, I agree, Charmaine. And it's because it's funny because I know certain people in my circle had a harder time accepting my ADHD diagnosis than my DID diagnosis, which still blows my mind.
Overdiagnosed.
Right. Well, that, but also but you're so smart, high functioning, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, yeah. Like, those two things are not mutually exclusive. Thank you, Derry. I appreciate that.
Yes, it is that's what it is, Katie. But it comes from, I guess, before there was like an emergency shutdown, like I guess button. It stands for Safety Control Rod Axeman. There used to be a guy whose job it was to grab the axe and like do something with a safety control rod. That's what it stands for, Safety Control Rod Axeman. I don't think there's a guy with an axe running around those reactors anymore, but that's what it used to be.
Do you know what my favorite thing about these chats is? I have literally
no idea. Rod. Yes. Sorry. I'm so excited.
I was just going to say, I love these chats because I literally have no idea what is going to come up. I love
Safety Control Rod Axeman. That's amazing. It makes me so happy that you knew it was Safety Control Rod. Yes. No one ever knows scram. It makes me so happy.
That's honestly very accurate, Nat. Like, that's the only way, because on the larger scale, the media that we have that explores those kind of themes is incredibly sensationalized for cinema.
What is Sybil a reference to?
Sybil is a story of supposedly one of the first women or first people that was diagnosed with multiple personality.
Yes, Daniel. That's why autism is much harder to diagnose in women.
It's true.
Women are also inherently better at masking than men are. So people have difficulty believing.
Therefore, Alan does not know I have DID until this very moment.
People have a hard time believing that I have autism until, like, when I start telling stories about me in high school, my students go, Mr. Morgan, how did you not know you had autism? I'm like, you know what? Looking back on it now, I'm mad at all my teachers who didn't want to be like, hey, have you ever considered? Because I tell some of the stories I tell, I'm like, what was wrong with me? But like, I don't present in what people think autistic looks like. It's not all Rain Man. Like, every autistic person isn't Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man.
Yeah.
And like,
well, there's a huge variety in that, honestly, in every diagnosis, in my opinion.
But I also learned to mask really early, and I'm an actor. So, but the problem is it's exhausting. Masking is exhausting. It is so hard to be normal when you are not. And
Evie.
I was talking about this with one of my students today. I was saying, I think since we're spending all day in Pompeii, I think we might be taking the train from Rome to Pompeii. And I was like, and I know it's like a stereotype that autistic people like trains, but I love trains. And she was like, I love trains. And I'm like, yes.
Trains are awesome.
I've been telling this kid that she's on the spectrum for 2 years now. But yes, I love trains.
Trains are awesome. Well, I mean, we've been chatting for 2 hours, and yeah, isn't that insane?
It's 10 o'clock. Oh, bollocks. Yeah.
So I want to close it here because I know that we could keep talking, and I will definitely.
We didn't talk about books at all.
Yeah, we did. Oh, yeah, we did.
Friends. Talk about books.
Alan, we talked about a whole bunch of books for the first half of this discussion. It was longer than that, I promise. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in the chat. Honestly, Alan, thank you so much for coming over and hanging out on my channel too, because I appreciate.
Sorry, this went.
No, it's this is what I love. I love it. I love having honest, open conversations with my friends. So I'm 100% cool with it. We did talk about books, Alan. We talked about a lot of books. If you go back and rewatch the first half of this, we talked about a lot of books. So I promise it counts. Thank you guys again. Yep. Thanks everybody in the chat for hanging out with us. And we will both see you in our next videos. Have a good night, guys.
Bye, everybody.